Hi there, Rick here. Um, I opened up my Microsoft app this morning. Okay, I saw a interesting article here. Okay, um, okay, this lady's holding a sign. It says, "Don't put it in your mouth." Okay, basically what she's protesting is a boycott of U.S. products. Okay, and well. Okay, in the article here it says harsh tariffs on Canadian goods, okay? Like 25%, okay? That is really high, okay? Um and then you can see here, okay, Campbell's soup, okay, Chipotle, um can't read those other small things on her poster there. But okay, I'm going to advance the slide here. Okay. Says here, several Canadians felt, they were, disrespected and betrayed by Trump. Okay. Um, On to the next slide here. In the article, okay. There's been an app, okay, developed, okay, to avoid American products. Um, the app is called, okay, Maple Scan, okay. This is just one of numerous, emerging in Canada to help people shop local. Okay. Others include Buy Canadian. Okay. What's amazing too. Okay, Maple Scan. The app has over 100,000 downloads, okay, since it launched last month. Okay, I'll say that again. Maple Scans, okay, app, okay, had over 100,000 downloads since it launched only a month ago. Okay, that's a lot. Okay, um, it says here, okay, he believes that the momentum, okay, this is the founder of MapleScan saying this, okay, he believes that the momentum around buying Canadians here to stay, okay. He told the BBC News this, okay. Um, Says here, lots of Canadians have told me I'm not going back, okay. It's important that we support local regardless, okay. Okay, this is our previous leader, okay, Justin Trudeau, okay. He made a speech just saying that, okay, okay, he said here, he encouraged Canadians to engage in grassroots, okay, boycott of American products, okay. So this is our Canadian leader, okay. He's literally saying, okay, boycott, yeah, U.S. products, okay? Not something that you would expect a leader to say to, you know, your neighbor, right? Your neighboring country that you share a border with. Um, so, shoppers are going out, right? Shopping for groceries, and they're being extra selective now, They see something that was, comes from America, okay? And they don't buy it. They buy Canadian. Okay? Um, I can't remember the last time where the sentiment was um this harsh towards US products. Okay? But, I can't remember a time where yeah, there was like a 25% tariff on Canadian made products going into the US. I was going to say that that's really harsh. Because you have to remember some of the tariffs, before this big trade war was only like 2-3%, okay? Maybe 5% at the most, okay? Now you're raising it to 25%. Basically, I would say that um, you're starting a trade war. Yeah, you're starting a trade war. And, in my opinion, okay, I just feel that, you know, nobody really wins, okay, in the trade war. But I would like to hear, see some of your comments from my netizens that watch this video. Just put something down below in the comments down there, okay? Just to uh, express your feeling, on this trade war, okay? Like, for instance, would you boycott um, American-made products in Canada, okay? Um, so I'll advance with the slideshow here, okay? Now, the article says here, now the former Canadian Prime Minister told Canadians, okay? It might mean checking the labels at the supermarket. So he's for boycotting, U.S. products as well, too, okay? Um, it might mean he says here, it might mean opting for Canadian rye over Kentucky bourbon, okay? Or foregoing Florida orange juice altogether, okay? Might mean changing your summer vacation plans to stay here in Canada, okay? Talks about boycotting American schools, okay? Maybe, okay, after Trump, after seeing all the backlash from, his high tariffs, I thought maybe he would, change his mind about, going through with these huge tariffs, right? But no, he's not changing his sentiment over these tariffs, right? Okay, this is a hockey game, okay, NHL game in Ottawa, okay. Ottawa was playing the Minnesota, and when the US anthem was played, a lot of Canadians, booed the US anthem, so you can see the sentiment towards the US, okay. It seems like, okay, it's gotten worse, and it's even getting worse, okay. Because I was gonna say too that we depend on the U.S. a lot. We get a lot of things from the U.S. and for this boycotting of U.S. made products, I'm just surprised at how far it's gone. Okay, I like I said, I'm just surprised at how far it's gone. Okay, a few months ago, okay, it was, not that many people I think were, that concerned about it, but it seems to have really ramped up, and people are, yeah, changing their vacation habits, changing their shopping habits. Um, people who maybe didn't, you know, under, understand the word boycott before, right? Now they know it, right? They know what it means. Okay. Um, they also know what it means to, shop local too, right? Because I'm sure before, okay, even before the trade war, people didn't care less about checking the label, what country it came from. Okay. They just, saw it, if it was a good price, um, a good product, they bought it. Okay. Now, sometimes maybe even, I don't know, 20 cent, 50 cents to $1 difference between a US product to a Canadian product. The Canadian shopper will buy the more expensive product now. Okay. Um, so, the shopping habits of Canadians, would have changed. Okay. And, if you were to ask, me, how I felt about this trade war, right? And, I would, I would probably favor, boycotting U.S. products. Yeah. I would probably check the labels, more carefully when I'm out shopping now and buy Canadian products, just because, it's a trade war, right? if the U.S. is going to impose a 25% tariff on Canadian products, right? It hurts a lot of working Canadians too, right? Maybe they, you know, only work part time now, right? Because maybe they're shipping a lot of things to the U.S. and because the hard tariffs affect their job, and then they only work half the amount of hours now, right? Or they just totally get laid off because um, their major market is the U.S. and they can't sell to the U.S. because of the high tariffs. So they lose their job. They have to go find something else, right? Because I've seen those years ago. I seen those bumper stickers on people's cars. It said uh, it said buy Canadian, um, or you know um, are you out of work yet? Um, then shop Canadian, something along that line. Okay, which makes a lot of sense, right? Because uh, it um, really hurts the Canadian economy uh, when when they cannot sell their products, right, to the consumer. Um, their products are coming from the U.S., right? So, like I say, I'm surprised that how far this trade war has literally gone. Okay, um, but seeing Trump go as far as he did with the tariffs, not only on Canada but other countries around the world as well too, right? I'm just surprised that he went this far with it, because I thought as soon as he maybe saw, okay, the backlash from a lot of countries, right? He would have done a 180-degree turn and said, I don't think that this is such a good idea. But, he just seems so, um, determined that, I want these tariffs in place. Um, I feel that, well, this is his words, right? I feel that, there's been a lot of countries, taking advantage of our country, right? Um, but, I do see a point when uh, when he was talking to was it kind of like the prime minister of Japan. He was just saying to him that, you know, um, you sell, millions and millions of dollars worth of cars to the U.S. You buy none of our cars, right? In my opinion, I would think that, that's unfair. And that's what Trump said. He said, I just feel that's unfair. And then um, I think the prime minister was Shinzo Abe. And, his response was, he didn't really say anything. He just kind of like, um, nodded his head kind of that, he understood that, what Trump was trying to say, right? Because, wouldn't you feel kind of like, um, taken advantage of if you let like, all these cars from Japan come into your country, and then, your manufacturers in your country um, are trying to sell to Japan, but Japan just won't buy any of your vehicles, right? Um, so I do see a point, uh, that Trump has here, okay, but not all, not all the countries with whatever commodity that they have, right? Um, I would say that is unfair, right? Of course, okay, I gave you example of the auto industry trade, right? Yeah, I think that's unfair, okay? But, look at, a lot of the food products, okay? A lot of food products from Canada goes into the US. A lot of food products from the US comes up here to Canada to sell, right? So I don't think, in terms of food products, the United States is being taken advantage of, right? It all depends on, from, I feel anyways, okay, from, product to product, okay, different products in different industries, right? But like I say, um, put some of your comments down below, right? Just saying, would you, boycott U.S. products? I just want to, find out, um, it's just some of the opinions from my netizens, would they, boycott U.S. products? Okay. I already told you that, yeah, I would, boycott U.S. products, right? You know, um, just because, I just feel that, this trade war has, spiraled, out of control, right? To the point where, yeah, um, you know, U.S. citizens, Canadian citizens are boycotting each other's products from each other's countries. A trade war has, emerged, okay, and it's reached the level of the consumers where, yeah, when it comes to buying products, they will, uh, choose, Canadian products over U.S. products, right? Even if it means, spending a little bit more money, okay. So, I was going to say too that, yeah, that helps out the Canadian economy, right? Because you're buying local, okay? But like I said, I'm just surprised that it's gotten to this level, okay?